Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit Podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host on the Virtual Summit Podcast. And get ready for probably the most interesting episode that we have ever done. It is going to be educational, but more importantly, it is going to be entertaining. We're going to laugh, maybe we'll cry, but we're for sure going to learn. And it's all possible because I've got the legendary Lanie and Rachael with us today. How are you ladies doing?
I'm already crying with joy to be with you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. I'm awesome. Thanks.
And for those tuning into the audio version of this podcast right here, I just got to point out that Rachael is coming live with us today from her closet. So those of you watching this on the YouTube channel will see that amazing background there. I love it. So we're going to be getting into probably one of the most interesting summits that I've heard about, that I've seen, and that we for sure have had on this podcast. And there's a lot of information to dissect here to show how successful and how creative you can actually be with your summit, and some potential challenges and friction points to be aware of. But before we jump into all that summit goodies, ladies, I would love for you to take a quick moment and let the audience know just a little bit more about yourselves.
I'm Lanie Lamarre. I'm over on LanieLamarre.com. I'm a growth systems expert. So if you need something to get you thinking smarter about your project management or knowing your numbers like a creative boss should, you know, the people who are saying, I suck at math and I just don't vibe with knowing my numbers. Those are my people. So I can talk to creative bosses about getting those sorts of things organized, and that's what I do. I'm very much like a methodical, systems-oriented person with a little bit of personality in it, which is why Miss Rachael and I vibe so well. We have like sort of that comedic and approachable kind of fun element to our work, and so we that's how she and I got started doing the summit work together.
How about them apples? Right? Match made in heaven. Match made in my closet, actually. I'm Rachael K. Albers, and I run a branding, web design, and marketing agency, RKA Inc., outside of Chicago. And when I'm not building epic, unforgettable brands for my clients, which is what we do over there, I host a business comedy show. It's called Awkward Marketing. And we bring sketch comedy together with lessons about growing your business online. And you can think of me kind of like the one-woman Saturday Night Live of business comedy. That's me, here to serve.
I love that. I mean, and like we have the yin and the yang, the two sides of the brain here, creating this perfect kind of cosmic collision of awesomeness, I would say. I've had a blast already just in our pre-interview chat, which is why I'm so excited for the rest of this interview. So let's jump right into it. What I'd like to talk about now is the Toilet Seat Summit. And yes, you just heard that correctly. I did say the Toilet Seat Summit. Get ready for some fun information. Now, ladies, let's jump into this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the summit, how you came up with the idea, why you even decided to do it, and what was it?
Well, the Toilet Seat Summit's given name is the 7 figures from your toilet seat summit, right? And right off the bat, you know, I'm glad you already established that this is really a real, actual event that we had because, you know, Lanie and I had been joking for years about all of these sleazy marketing tricks and summits that we had seen out there, like, hey, make 7 figures, you know, with a potato you found in your backyard, make, you know, all these things. So we were like, oh gosh, the logical extreme of this is make 7 figures from your toilet seat. And as we started thinking like, you know, it might be kind of fun to put a summit together, we were like, well, we kind of have to call it the 7 figures from your toilet seat summit. There is no other way. I mean, am I right about this, Lanie?
Totally. And it was such an ongoing joke for us that we we kind of took it for granted that everybody was in on the joke. So we brought people into the comedic part of the joke when we started promoting the summit. But what started happening was that people, because of Rachel's work doing all these sketch comedies online, people thought that this was a sketch that we were promoting, that we were just kidding about making 7 figures from your toilet seat. But we weren't kidding about it. We were actually hosting a summit. So we had to sort of go back and review our messaging around it so that we could actually convince people that, hey, no, you can actually sign up for this thing and you'll learn some really awesome things about building a sustainable business and being able to make that other part of the message clear that, look, we're not just making fun of that kind of approach to business or that kind of marketing, but we're actually offering you some really smart, resourceful, important voices that can help you build your small business into, just making a living. How about that?
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
Yeah, I think where the confusion came in, this was both the pro and the con of this summit, was we brought in comedy, we brought in parody, which immediately made it just so unique, and it made it easy for us to get people to agree to participate. People were excited about normally you're on your Instagram and you see like summit graphics going through your feed and you're like, you'll like it if it's your friend, you're like, okay, double tap for solidarity, but you're not really invested, you don't care. And so we really wanted to stop the scroll. We wanted something that people would actually enjoy interacting with our marketing, and we got that, we did that. However, the con of this was that, as Lanie said, people thought that we were kidding. And I think part of that was our keynote speaker, if you will, was one of my sketch characters, Brad Brosakis, who is a Lambro, right? He's one of those guys out there with his sports car being like, 2 months ago, I was at rock bottom and then I discovered this secret and now I'm a bazillionaire and Jeff Bezos is my best friend, right? So we had him as kind of our headliner, this character. So that's what Lanie said. People thought we were just promoting some sketch comedy. So lessons learned. This is reminding me we still need to do our recap and review, Lanie. Let's put a pin in this.
Well, there's so much to dig into this. I didn't even know that there was a fictional sketch character as the headliner from this. This is incredible. So let's keep digging into it a little bit more. So tell me, what was the actual concept that was taught on the summit? How many days was it? Give us a little bit more of the structure, and how did you bring the comedy into it yet still create knowledge and learning throughout?
Well, here's the gist. We basically said this. It's hard out there for an online business if you're trying to market yourself in a way that doesn't feel icky, right? So we wanted to just not only poke fun and comic relief into all the bro promises we're seeing out there, but then also to counter that with, let's give you some actual practical, actionable advice that doesn't make you want to take a shower after you see it. And so we kind of countered this whole thing of, hey, here's what you've been taught, and we know that it makes you feel icky and it's not working. So here's what we're really going to teach you that's actually going to make a difference in your business. We're not going to lie to you and say, if you take this summit, tomorrow you're a millionaire. But we are going to actually give you sustainable, clean, non-icky strategies that are actually going to work, right? It's not just us all patting ourselves on the back about how brilliant we are. This summit isn't a success unless people walk away being like, brilliant, you've changed my business, right?
And it was 2 days, I think. It might have been 3, but I think it was 2 days. And what was really great about it was that so when we were approaching our speakers with the materials that we had sort of brainstormed as sort of preliminary stuff, that totally gave the speakers permission to take on that same kind of like kind of comic relief to the way they were making their presentations. So what was awesome is that I've never heard so many poop jokes in a 3-day span in my life, because people had that permission slip when they were getting the promo materials, when they were getting, even when we were approaching them, being just a copy alone. So we didn't really have to reinforce that too much. Once that initial part was done, people really took it and ran with it. And there was a sort of freedom to the way people were presenting their materials throughout, not just with the poop jokes, but they were a little bit more liberal.
We had copywriter Jen Wynnum dressed up as a hot dog to give her intro. She had like a professional editing team come in, and she had, the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the room. Her whole thing was about helping people become the most interesting person in the room. So she even had this cardboard cutout of this guy in her backyard that you could see through her window in this footage while she's dressed like a hot dog. And I'll tell you what, I mean, if you've been to boring summits before and you go to a summit where you're getting lessons about copywriting from a talking hot dog, you're never going to forget this experience, right? So we were super excited to have people come in and do the craziest things. Another one of our presenters, Jess Manizak, from Verve and Vigor, she, to promote the show, to promote the summit, did an entire outfit made out of entirely toilet paper. So she posted this outfit all over her Instagram of her dressed up wearing nothing but toilet paper. So those are the types of things that came out of, like, again, this is the pro of having a wild and wacky approach, and just let's have some fun with it. Let's see what happens. Because why else attend a summit these days unless there's going to be some element of wow, right?
And that's the thing. It wasn't goofy just for goofy's sake, because dressed as a hot dog, the whole point that she dressed as a hot dog for was because she had this picture of Halloween of all these little girls dressed as princesses, and the one girl dressed as a hot dog, and being like, who's most memorable here? Hot dog girl. Be hot dog girl in the way you're marketing yourself. And so that lesson really stays with you too. So it wasn't just watching presentations that were just kind of falling one into the other. The sort of creative liberty that people were able to take with it actually made the lesson stick a little bit more. At least that's how I'm telling you the story now. And this was maybe 6 months ago. So the fact that I remember in depth her presentation is because she was dressed as hot dog girl.
That is incredible. And yeah, like, wow. So with that, it does make it stand out. It clarifies and it makes it fun. And something we talk about very regularly here on this podcast, as well as in our tribe, is, most summits out there, they're educational, but they're boring. People are tired of boring. At the same time, you can't just be entertaining, because if it's entertaining and no knowledge, people are like, well, I don't have time to just waste. Like, I have Netflix time later, not time right now. So that's why we have to have this combination of educational and entertaining, or edutainment. And I feel like you two have just like made the perfect combination of that. Now, I want to dig into the speaker aspect of this. You brought that up about, you had this speaker do this, you had another speaker do that. And a first thought that came to my mind when you were talking about the toilet paper woman, that'd be worth a fortune right now, right? But outside of that, what were the challenges with the speakers? So when you brought them this concept, and what I mean by that is, some of them may have, like, let's talk challenges from them. Some saying, I don't know if that fits me, or I don't know if I'm down with that, to getting the other ones that are like, how to understand how to be a part of this appropriately.
So yes, we did have this situation happen where we did approach some people who just came right back to us in a very friendly way and just said, this is not on brand for me. And, upon further reflection, I agreed with the people who told us that. So, when we were choosing our speakers, we knew this first time out the gate, we were kind of treating this as our foundational run to work out the kinks, to see what works, and so we chose people that we knew had a sense of humor, were on board with our worldview about trying to reshape the online marketing conversation, which is important to us, right? So we specifically put together a list of people that represented the values of the summit, because that was also important to us. Was we had to have these conversations, Lanie and I, privately, when we were discussing who should be a good speaker for this. We can't bring somebody onto the summit that embodies the things we're mocking, right? So we need, and that was a tough one. And I'm going to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people like to admit to, which is, okay, you're choosing your summit speakers, and number one, you want to bring value. right? You want somebody that's going to be on brand for the summit. But then also there's that strategic element of choosing speakers that have an audience and know how to use their audience, because that is, the point of a summit, right? All of our collective audiences are coming together and we're getting exposed to new people. So what we ended up finding as we were doing this, we were like, gosh, a lot of these summit regulars also happen to be the ones doing the things that we're not super big fans of. So we had to also then make tough choices about who do we invite on. Will this person be a good fit because they're going to get us more eyeballs, but they're also not going to be on brand for our values and our mission? We got to get rid of them. We got to walk our talk here. So we had to make some tough choices ourselves. Who do we invite on? Because we want to make sure that we're not saying on one hand, we're all about like this holistic, honest approach to marketing, but then on the same hand, having a speaker who's known for taking advantage or being manipulative or exploitative in their marketing, right? But I'll be honest, the people that we invited, 90%, I think, were 1,000% down with this vibe and the vision, because we chose them based on how they're showing up in their marketing and how that aligns with our values.
We got very few no's, I think. And like Rachel said, the no's that we got were appropriate. But also our approach wasn't the way that I know I've been approached to speak at summits a lot. We didn't ask anyone what their list size was. We didn't talk about how many times that they're willing to email their list. We didn't ask for the dates that they're emailing things. We said, look, these are the guidelines that we would like for you to adhere by so that you can help us promote this. But we weren't like, the one thing that always confuses me when I'm speaking at summits is when people ask me like which day, and this is a summit that's 3 months in advance, and like, which day am I going to send the promotional emails out? I'm like, dude, I am a planner. Bless my soul. I plan everything to the T. And even I don't know when I'm going to send an email out 3 months in advance. So we embodied those sorts of things that we don't like seeing other people doing. And, when Rachel says that we were making sure that people, had an audience and knew how to speak to it, had an audience is an engaged audience, people that we know are back and forth with their audience. We've never asked numbers and we never inquired about it at all. It was never a factor.
I mean, that is so great right there. And it shows that if you create something that's fun and in alignment for the speakers, that they want to participate. You don't have to twist people's arms to get them to participate. I'd like to ask with the speakers, so you have this kind of summit set up, you have this vision in your mind of this kind of comedic parody type of summit, and as you mentioned, Rachel, in our pre-interview chat, like, let your freak flag fly. How did you make sure that the ones who did say yes and were on board, that they still like added to the comedic aspect, or did you just kind of let them present however they want? Like, was there any kind of...
We let them do their thing, and actually they followed our lead. And I think it wasn't a requirement that you be funny on this summit, okay? Because we had funny elements. Every single intro for every presentation had an intro. We had a little bit of Brad in there throughout it. So I don't want to, suggest that in order to be part of our summit, you have to be a comedian. No. But what I think happened was, number one, we were being the example. Our marketing was the example. Our website was the example. All our promo videos were an example, which just modeled for them. We went to the extreme with our stuff, right? We've got me dressed up as this, funnel hacker running around Chicago to track down Lamborghinis. I mean, that's what I was literally doing for our promo videos, right? And so by setting the bar that extremely, we just gave people this permission slip to, as you said, which I said, when you quoting me, I'm going to quote you quoting me saying, let your freak flag fly, right? But people did it, and we didn't have to monitor them or track them or anything. I think that just the fact that we had given them this example of here's how wild we're willing to be allowed them to loosen up, and then made them excited about trying new crazy things, because they didn't have to worry, am I going to be the ridiculous one? No, I already claimed that, baby. Come for the title if you want it, right? So they had that safety of not feeling like they were going to be foolish. And that in and of itself, I think, opened up, the people that did go for comedy. Not everyone went for comedy. And some of our speakers, they put comedy in the title of their speech, or they would have like a funny picture on a slide, but they themselves weren't trying to be funny, but they were warm to the idea of just being a little looser than they might have otherwise been.
Oh, that is perfect right there, and I love that. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense right there. I was just curious as to how you aligned that, and you did it. You led by example and let people kind of fall there. So, I'd really like to kind of talk a little bit about the assets, the things, the creative aspects that you created for the summit. We're going to get into some of the challenges you experienced a little bit later, but I'd like to talk about, you know, from a little bit of a structured standpoint. Like you said, okay, we're going to have intro videos. What did you decide with that? You created a character, you put it throughout. Just kind of talk me through the layout of the summit and what you decided to add where.
So I showed up with a spreadsheet. I always start with all the organized things. I had a list of all the assets we needed, every email, every web page, all of the stuff was written, all of the copy was created. And I really managed the back end of organizing everything, making sure that we didn't, or rather Rachel wouldn't have to think of anything that had to be created. It just had to be created. And then she just had essentially a to-do list of things to be created and plop them all in where they belong. And that was kind of the magic of how Rachel and I were able to work together, because I'm the systems person. I'm the organized person. I'm the one who lives in the spreadsheets. I'm the one who is like, the deadlines are these dates and they cannot be flexible. And Rachel's like, I'm a creative. This stuff takes time. You need to give me 2 more days. I'm like, okay. So it was a lot of like back and forth in that aspect. And also to me being like, you need to relax about certain things. You need to give people enough time, and 3 weeks is more than enough time. You don't have to be so adamant about. So it was really nice to have that back and forth of someone who is doing the thinking and the strategy, and then someone who is doing the creative and the promotional part so well, so that we could each sort of do our zone of genius really well without having to spread ourselves so thin, because this was our first summit.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
So there was a little bit of nerves in there too, of like, are we doing it right? Are we covering all the bases? Or is this enough? Should we be doing more? And both of us were doing the same sort of thing, where I was thinking, oh, should I be planning more? Should I be organizing more? And Rachel was constantly being like, oh, we should do more videos. And I'm like, we have enough videos. So it was both of us keeping each other in check in our zones of genius, where we would have just kind of gone crazy too, just over planning or over creating. So that was a nice
or under
balance.
planning and under creating, because I'm the under planner, at least when it comes to this stuff, right? I project manage my own, like a lot of my own client projects, but it was so wonderful. If this had been up to me, it would have all just happened when it happened. And then thank God for Lanie. So yeah, like Lanie said, she got the spreadsheet and it was beautiful. I walked in there, and as the designer, I could take all of that and turn it into a website, turn it into a logo, turn it into the create. So, you know, and I think that this was probably what worked well for us, is that we both kind of let the other one take over their zone of genius, right? Lanie approved every design I sent. She wasn't difficult. Like, it wasn't like she was micromanaging me as the designer. She was like, I love this. Let's go forward. I love it. Boom. And same thing with her spreadsheets and all of that kind of thing. I just let her handle the Airtable. That's one of her things, right? And so we had a creative vision that we went into it, but I kind of handled filming all of the promo videos and all of that stuff and creating the visual elements, while Lanie handled all of the deadlines, all the organization, all the copy, all of like making sure that when I was ready to go make that website, every single detail I needed, including all the pictures of the speakers, all their presentations, all their time. It was immaculately organized and saved us both, you know, when you think about it, thousands and thousands of dollars and all this extra time. So it was a beauty. And actually, I mean, I'll tell you what, like Lanie, you could literally go into business as a virtual summit organizer and that just be your job, because you were out of this world incredible.
But here's the thing, I can't, I'll be the person who would constantly be like, all right, so I'm going to need this stuff tomorrow. How close are you to being done? And it would drive me nuts to like not have someone that I can rely on. And Rachel, if there's something that you can rely on her for, it's delivering the creative goods. So we were a perfect marriage in that case. I don't know that I would I don't think I would do it with anybody else, Rach.
Oh, I love this. Well, let's dig into this aspect then. Let's dig into the fact that this was a co-hosted summit, which is not an easy task. One, to have two, especially like you didn't work together before. I mean, as far as like you're not in the same company. You both have separate companies. You came together for this project, for this summit. So let's talk about some of the challenges of this, because I regularly recommend that somebody who maybe is a little bit afraid of trying to host a summit on their own, find a co-host and move forward with it. But there are going to be some challenges. So let's talk through what challenges somebody may experience.
I think most people who want to host a summit want to do it with like their biz bestie, their girlfriend, or whatever, like a buddy who thinks and works like them, who is often in the same industry. What worked for Rachael and I was the fact that we are so different. We think so differently. We approach work so differently. What also was a challenge with Rachael and I is that we think so differently. We approach work so differently. Like the same things that were advantages were also a bit of a challenge, but it actually made the summit better. It means you're going to have somebody challenging you. It means that you're going to have some butting heads. It means that you're going to have to, put your flag in the ground about the things that are really important to you that, are going to serve the bigger purpose of making this work. And you're going to have to think about things that you would normally just take for granted, I guess, or you would just do your way without thinking of why you do it that way. So those were challenges, but they were challenges that made the summit better. And aside from that, I don't think that we had anything else. It was really just having to think differently than we normally would on our own.
I mean, Lanie had the entire summit planned and everything itemized and detailed like 2 weeks before I even opened up the Airtable. so that was an example of I am, as a creative, a little bit more fluid. And so I had to learn, I had to honor these deadlines in a way that, I might have been a little bit more flex with myself. I'm the one who's always getting everything done like 2 hours before I put it live, right? And that's even being generous with myself. So that was really the challenge of, like the right brain, left brain fusion. But as she said, it was also the bonus. And like, the other challenge we already mentioned was, we had to realize midway through that we had made some wrong moves with our marketing, which for me was really humbling because I had kind of headed up a little bit more of the social marketing and the video stuff and everything. And so then we get this feedback that people think that this isn't a real summit, which is like the worst feedback to get when you're putting all your blood, sweat, and tears into an event and you're like, oh, nobody actually is registering for this because they think that we're hilarious and that's it, right? So we had to make some pivots there and have some difficult conversations. But I actually think the fact that, Lanie and I, okay, full disclosure, we are in a mastermind group together. So we've been in each other's lives meeting every other week for the last year and a half. And so we had that relationship. But here's the thing. Lanie isn't, and I say this with love, Lanie, my absolute best friend in the world. We don't talk every single day. We're not up in each other's inbox constantly. We talk throughout the week and, but I think it probably would have been a little bit more of a disaster if she was like my ultimate BFF because of all of the emotion that went into it. And luckily, I think that the fact that our relationship, almost there's a little bit more boundaries there. Because like if you're working with your bestie, it's like, whatever, I'll just email you at 11:38 p.m. But we had to have more boundaries and respect for each other's roles and time that we were putting in. And I think that helped save us from any co-host disasters, if you will.
No, I love that. That is a really great piece of information right there. What other maybe advice or strategy would you recommend to somebody who's getting ready to go into this with a co-host? Even from like you just said, set some boundaries, what other kind of structured advice would you give them to set going into it?
Start 2 months before you think you need to start. We actually felt that we had started quite with plenty of time because we see summit hosts throw together summits in 2 weeks, right? And we spent 3 months, 3.5 months working on this. And I think we actually needed to spend a little bit more, at least to start the promo window earlier. It doesn't mean we have to work the same amount longer, but I think we actually needed a little bit more time. And so I would tell people to give people more time because we were a organizational powerhouse between the two of us. Well, with Lanie and just me, following what Lanie said, I can't imagine how people who have a hard time following through on things, because we were both really impressed by each other actually doing the stuff we promised to do. Both of us, I think, are the type of person that, like, in school, we were the one on the school project doing all the work for everybody else, and everybody else just slid by on our A, right? So we had 2 A students together, and even with 2 A students both totally operating on full cylinders with each other, we still, I think, needed a little bit more time. So I would tell anybody, if you're going to plan a summit, you need to start that planning minimum 6 months out, minimum, in my opinion, if you really want to do it right.
And you both need to have the same values strongly held for whatever topic the summit is. Because here's the thing, is that I might be sort of a nerdy systems analytical type person, but I get the humor behind everything, and I can write with humor. And Rachael and I shared that in a way that it made it easier for things like copy, for things like messaging. And we were completely on the same page. Like, you should be able to write, if you were doing a writing exercise about what is this summit about, whatever both of you write should be damn near identical without looking at each other's test paper, to further the A student copying my homework reference.
And I was always so overjoyed when I looked at your messaging. It was so exactly what I would have said, and probably better than I would have said it. So it's like a marriage, I think, in a way. Sometimes you have to be willing to defer to the other person for the good of the relationship. There were times I think both of us were, deciding on speakers or deciding on X or Y, and might have not made the choice we would have wanted to make. But in the end, you're like, pick your battles. Like, you want this person or you don't want this person or whatever. Let's do it. I trust you, and I want to make sure we stay a great team throughout this. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. You got to have the other person's best interest in mind. And that's something I really felt taken care of by Lanie. I didn't feel, I really feel that she was like holding me up and like on my team and had my back, and I could trust her. And that, I think, was super important. But how did that happen? Because I think we both treated the relationship. I'm going so deep. You were right, Mark. We are going to cry on this show. Oh my gosh. But it was truly like, let's put the relationship first. And that made all the difference.
And that trust factor was big too, because what Rachel's referring to with, asking each other about speakers that others really were going hard for, it really worked out that some of the speakers that we were questioning each other, are you sure they're going to fit with, what we're trying to promote? Those are some of the best calls. So it really is a matter of trusting each other, and just whatever, not whatever the other person says goes, but believing enough in the other person's judgment that, look, this will probably work out. And if it doesn't, what's the worst that can happen?
But having that background, that relationship with each other for over a year before we started this, it was like right around the year mark that we started this, I think was important. Like, you've got to have expectations set. And I think even though we never really had a full out conversation about all the expectations that we had, given that we knew each other so well and our different zones of genius, that I think really helped us. I don't think I would have had the same success doing a summit with someone that I might have met a couple months ago, and strategically might make sense for reach or whatever, but doesn't make sense because we just don't have a trust level with each other yet, or like a communication pattern. We don't know how each other, that's the thing. Oh my.
Like, when you're going, it's fun. Our messaging on this one too is kind of funny, where it's just, okay, make sure that you're completely on the same page and can read each other's mind with messaging, but make sure you're complete opposites in the way that you work.
Yeah. Simple task.
Honestly, what I would say though is I do feel like we kind of got lucky. And what I would say is that if you co-host a summit and you don't have this experience, I don't think that's very abnormal. I think actually we, for the first time in our professional careers, came together on a joint venture like this. And I don't at least think in the last 11 years, have had someone be such a great, really truly felt like a 50-50 partnership. So it's just finding that diamond in the rough. I can understand why more people don't co-host summits together, because it could go so horribly, awfully wrong. So my advice might be, if you don't have trust with someone like we're talking about that we did, if you don't have a shorthand, if you don't have a person that you have a real kind of professional respect for, and, I would think twice about co-hosting a summit with that person,
Oh man, this is incredible. Like, this is such great feedback right here. I appreciate this. Now, as we start to round out this episode, I'd really like to kind of go into some of the Just briefly, what worked well with the marketing aspect and what didn't? Like you've already mentioned that some of the stuff was so comedic that people thought it was not even a real. What actually worked that people could double down on, and what would you recommend them holding off a little bit on?
I would have kept the comedy, but I would have used the comedy more in a pre-launch runway, and then getting closer to the summit, transition that messaging. So I would have I would have planted the seeds with the comedy, because the comedy worked in terms of attention and just in terms of make like attendance and people actually showing up. And my theory would be, despite maybe not having as big of a reach as we would have had we gone more vanilla, had we gone more cookie cutter. I was saying cookie boss, the cookie boss summit, that, if we had done that, or I don't know, I think we might have had a bigger audience if we went that route, but I don't think the audience would have been as engaged. So, I mean, the comedy worked and didn't work, and so I wouldn't take it away, but I would reconfigure how we did it. But I also think that, well, Lanie, I mean, I want you to speak to some of the success points.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
I mean, I don't know what else to say in terms of success of marketing. I think that for a first run out on something that was so cookie box, out of the cookie box, outside of the box, at least we put it out there and we did the best that we could, knowing that there was a lot of room for improvement, and we gave ourselves a little bit of grace in that aspect. And I think that we did it knowing that these are going to just be the foundational elements of the next time we do this. How are we going to improve it? Because that was really the mojo with it, because nobody's doing this. And so there's no real way of seeing what's right and wrong about taking this approach. So we faltered a little bit, but I don't think so much. I think we did really well for a first round out.
Yeah, and honestly, the genius of us bringing Brad into it and bringing the comedy into it is the materials we've created. Number one, they have a life of their own beyond the summit. And, Lanie has noticed me the last few weeks on Instagram. I've been doing GIFs. I've been like repurposing stuff from the summit into GIFs. So keeping Brad visible, and even keeping the toilet figures, 7 figures from your toilet seat thought and like concept visible. It's hard to actually have a summit that, the marketing elements of it can survive beyond the summit itself and actually are enjoyable to interact with beyond the summit. So by having Brad and the comedy element in it, the stuff we've created and like the marketing for it continues to bring us attention, right? And continues to get people interested in the summit the next time we do it. Whereas I feel like if you're just running a vanilla summit that's like, hey, how to do webinars from your closet summit or whatever, who is going to be looking at those GIFs or whatever in 6 months? They're not. But who's looking at, like 400,000 people have seen our toilet seat summit GIF this week, Mark. This week we got 400,000 eyeballs on our toilet seat summit GIFs. So how about them apples?
And the organic marketing is so important with a summit like ours, because if you're going to be promoting making 7 figures from your toilet seat, Facebook ads doesn't like that. Lo and behold, big surprise. So you can't really rely on those paid marketing channels. Organic marketing is king for something like this.
So good. Oh man, this has been incredible. I appreciate you two both so much for making me laugh, making me cry, and giving me so much great wisdom and insights and ideas right now. I know everybody else is like, Mark, I need some more Lanie and Rachael in my life. Where are they hanging out? How can I find more about them and their Toilet Seat Summit? So let all the listeners know best ways to get in touch with you and where you're hanging out at.
You can find me at LanieLamarre.com and DM me on Instagram. That's like my favorite thing to do while I'm Netflixing and going through DMs at Lanie Lamarre. It's just super simple.
And I am Rachael K. Albers. You can go to my RKAINK, that's RKAInc.com, or awkwardmarketing.tv. That's where you want to go, right? Let's just admit it. Go
It's
check
true.
out Awkward Marketing. That's where the
It's
fun is. Actually, at awkwardmarketing.tv, you can find a playlist with our Toilet Seat Summit promo videos. So you want to go take a peek at that. And if you search Toilet Seat Summit in Giphy, including in your Instagram GIFs, our GIFs will show up, baby. So go find them that way too.
Oh, this is great. We will definitely link to all of this in the show notes as well. I'm so excited to go dive into more of this as well. Thank you two so much for being here with us today. This has been an absolute blast. And thank you, all you Summit hosts, for hanging out with Lanie, Rachael, and myself, Dr. Mark T. Wade, your host here on the Virtual Summit podcast. Don't forget to head over to the show notes to get access to all these amazing little goodies in the cookie box at podcast.virtualsummits.com/157. And just remember, your message matters. So go out there and make an impact in the world, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.